I spoke with a lot of parents this year that realized their child's configuration on Proloquo2Go was not very good after they saw a few other examples online. Here's an example of one that is based on something I saw, and it's not so great. You can see it's a smaller grid, so like 3x6, which isn't a lot of buttons on the screen at the same time. So we don't recommend grids like this unless there's an actual reason. You can see the colors are all over the place. There's no consistency. We have some people on the home screen. Not quite sure why. There's a people folder right here. A couple foods on the home screen. Again, doesn't exactly make sense. And there isn't even a food folder on the main one. Some buttons are kind of blacked out. Again, very confusing. And if the parents are confused and it doesn't look cohesive to the parents, it's definitely not going to be cohesive and useful for the child. And even if they figure out how to navigate it like this right now, that doesn't necessarily mean that they are set up for growth like this. So if someone were to change their grid size and say, okay, well, I want to try to make this a bigger grid size, I'm going to customize it and change the appearance to like 9x9, it still is a little bit strange. It's a little better, but it's a little bit strange. We still have these weird blacked out buttons, some options here that don't quite make sense, some things on the home screen. Again, that is one way to kind of increase someone's language, is to change the grid size. But sometimes a setup is so customized that it's just too far gone and you decide that you're going to start over. So I'm going to show you how to start over and also how to pull some of those customizations you already made into a new setup. The first thing you want to do is click this little icon here. No matter where you are, you just want to get to where it says user. Hit that and then just hit add user. You can have as many users as you want. This is going to be our new kid. All right. You can name it anything you want. We're using English. Select the voice. Ella is what I use for Lily. Josh is a great kid's voice. You can pick anything you want.
Hello, my name is Ella.
And then we're doing crescendo for our vocabulary and intermediate core for our language. This is the orientation. And now we get to pick our grid size. So again, the grid size is the number of buttons that are on the screen at the same time. This is obviously an excellent grid. 96 buttons all at the same time. That's a lot of language. That might be way too much for someone who's starting out. It might not be. Depends on the person. I will say something like this, that's not enough buttons. A lot of people want to start with something like this. Unless your child has a physical issue or a visual issue, or maybe they have sight challenges, or if they are visually overwhelmed and you are trying to accommodate that by starting with a small grid and quickly going to something else, okay, fine. But for the most part, you want to start with a lot of language because a person can't learn more language if they don't have access to it. That doesn't mean you're going to model everything right away. It just means you're starting with all the language on the page so that as you start to model more and as they start to play with it and learn more, the language is available to them. 6x10 is an excellent starting grid. I don't usually recommend going any lower than 5x9 if you really need to. But let's start with a 6x10, and I'll even show you what to do if your child is visually overwhelmed so that you can change a setting on here and slowly introduce buttons to them if you think this is too much on the screen for them. So here I'm selecting a 6x10 grid. I'm not going to include any of these things right now. Welcome new kid. There we go. We have our new setup. And here it is. Here's our new grid. We have a 6x10. Now I'm going to do a few more customizations that I do think are very helpful. And then I'm going to show you how to pull a few of those customizations from your old account into this new one so that you don't lose them. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into options. I'm going to go to the appearance. And I'm going to go to the background color right here for buttons. See that buttons, image and label? You can change that to just be label. I don't recommend just doing images. You can just do label if you want someone who only wants words. Only images is absolutely going to limit someone. And then the color coding scheme, you can choose the colors and I'll show you what that means. But go to background color and instead of fringe only, select all. And what that does is it color codes your buttons. So now you can see verbs are pink, pronouns are orange, different words have different colors. You'll see in here nouns are yellow. It's important to help someone visually track the buttons and kind of build their sentences. Having the colors on the backgrounds of the buttons help them kind of figure out where they're going next as they're learning the device. And it's also a little bit more pleasing to the eye than having every single button look exactly the same. So that has one simple change to make. Another thing you want to do in this same area, skin tone. Pick a skin tone that associates with the person using the device. They should relate to their device. They should see themselves in their device. And yes, these are just little stick figures, but choose a skin tone that someone's going to relate to. Same goes with the voice that we chose earlier, things like that. Label position is another one. My daughter has always had labels under her pictures. And so I just go ahead in here and I'll do below image instead of above because that's how she was always used to seeing it. So those are a few basic customizations. There are many, many more that you can do. Watch our YouTube library. You'll get lots of great ideas. So here is how you pull across some of your customizations from other users. Go into that icon, go to this user. You know how we made that new one? Instead, I'm gonna go to a different user. Like I said, you can have multiples on here. And let's say I wanna pull across the mom button, and I'm gonna select it, the dad button. I'm gonna select it because those were both customized with pictures and I wanna put them in my new profile so I don't lose them. So I clicked edit, I highlighted them both. I'm gonna hit copy, which is right there. I'm gonna hit done. Go back here, change it back to my new kid user. And then I go to where those belong, which is in the people folder. I hit my pencil and I'm gonna paste. See? And now I can drag them on top of where these were. I can replace those by putting them over there. And I'm gonna get rid of both of those. I'll archive them. So now you see I copied over the mom and dad buttons from the user that I already had without you losing the customizations that she was used to. You can do that with as many buttons as you want. So for example, in Lily's setup, let's go to people. She has a lot of people. I can copy them all over. And I even have some verbs in the people folder that I might want to copy over. I can also copy an entire folder. Hit my pencil icon, click on the folder, copy it, hit done, click here, go to the new user, pencil icon, and paste. And there we go. And you can see if you look in this folder, look at all those custom buttons I already made. I don't want to recreate those, so I copied them over. So that is the best way to go about it, is setting up a new user and then copying over your customizations so you don't lose them from one user to another. And that way you can start off Proloquo2Go correctly. Now let's say this is where you think your kid's gonna do great, but you wanna slowly introduce the buttons to them. I have one more setting to show you. So you go into here, and then you're going to go into vocabulary. I apologize. Hit progressive language right there. Turn it on. What that does is it allows you to phase in the buttons without changing the size of the buttons or the location of the buttons. It's important to keep the buttons in the same spot so someone can do their motor planning and they can have like muscle memory. So you think about it, when you're typing on a keyboard without looking, that's because you have that memory. When you are texting to someone without looking, again, you've been able to kind of map that out and you know what you want to push and you know where it is without having to think about it or search for it all the time. We want the AAC to be like that for our kids. So you want to keep the buttons in the same position and relatively the same size and not always have to change everything around on them every time you increase the grid. So this is what step 1 looks like. So if you slowly want to introduce it, start at step 1. You can just get into some of the basics. I want, okay, I don't necessarily recommend I want for everything, but you understand. And then when they're ready, you go to step 2, a little bit more vocabulary. And those steps even take place inside the folders. It's not just the home screen, it's inside the folders too. And then as they start to get a little more comfy, step 3. Now again, you only need to do this if your child might get visually overwhelmed by having all those buttons to start. If you don't think your child will get visually overwhelmed, it's not a problem. All you do is you just don't model them all to start. You can have them all on the screen, and you still start with modeling only like one thing. I'm going to start by modeling banana.
Banana.
Every time we're sitting at the table eating a banana, I'm going to hit the banana button, hand my kid a banana. Very simple. I don't have to start with, I want to eat a banana. I don't have to start with, oh, wow, that banana is tasty. I'm just going to start with banana. And then I will start building on that. I want banana. I like banana. Can I have a banana? Things like that. But you usually only start with one button at a time. So again, that is how you start completely over in Proloquo2Go. You do some basic settings to set your kid up for some visual success and motor planning success. Do not forget to customize the device for them. Give them lots of favorites. Give them lots of motivators. And then model, model, model.